Good morning, everyone. I have some very exciting news to share. At least in my opinion, that's exciting. I found someone that can work on my Honda and that knows what he's doing. Do I know the guy? No. But you have to have some faith and trust in humanity because otherwise we're doomed. Which we already kind of are, but okay. Anyhow, so that's the plan for today. My Honda is at this very moment on a trailer on the way to the dude who also owns an E46 M3. So maybe that's where my trust sources come from. This is the very beginning of my doomed S2K Part 1, because I'll probably do a series about it on how we fix the car, and once the car is fixed we can start on the fun part, and I'm going to take you guys through the whole process. I bought this car before I even had my driver's license. I am 20 at this moment. I think I bought it when I was 16. So I have this car for 4 years. Nothing quite happened to it because nobody has knowledge about it, so I'm putting my trust in this guy. He will fix this. Please. He said the car is not leaving the garage as long as it's not driving properly. That's a nice thing to hear. It's about a 1 hour 20-minute drive, so I'll be seeing you guys there. Look who we have here. The doomed S2K. Allow me to explain to you guys everything that we're gonna do today. So we're gonna start off by measuring everything out with the oscilloscope. Okay, I don't know this thing. I don't know the English word of it. Oscilloscope. Just to see what the sensor actually does, because if you read out the car, the fault code is crankshaft sensor, but it's a new one, so that's where I'm kind of debating on, is it the crankshaft sensor, is it not the crankshaft sensor? So that's something we're gonna find out today, and from there, if everything is alright and it gives connection to the ECU, we're gonna take off the distribution cover and see what's actually going on there, just to check if the timing is good and everything in common with the timing. So yeah, now you know. Blah 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 blah. I had to start the car for the oscilloscope, and this is what it gives. So this right here is really messy and just not how it's supposed to be. So that's the first thing we're going to fix today, because I cannot drive around like this. Before opening the whole wiring loom and doing the big work, we're gonna first try to soldering the wires together. So we're wrapping them nicely together and then we are soldering them. It's better to do this with a crimping tool, but that's something we do not have, but this just works perfectly fine as well. Then we have this little small plastic tube that goes over it, and if you heat it up with a heat gun, it shrinks good on those wires. So we took off this plastic piece right here and plugged out all the injectors to save up on the catalytic inverter, because apparently that's not a good thing to do. And normally the car shouldn't start right now, but we'll see. So we noticed something already. If I start the car and it runs, it gives off this fault code, but if I just start the car without the actual starting, it gives no fault code. So what's the issue here? I don't know. So this is the scope, and this quite measures everything. You put these guys on, and we are going to put them on the crankshaft sensor to see if they give the good signal. You have to put these almost like needles inside the sensor, and it has to be touching the wires to have the proper signal. What we have is an induction sensor, and there you measure the positive and the negative side of the current. So the voltage is at 20 volts, and then we can see how it exchanges. So we have no signal on this device, which means that there is probably a break in the wire, so we're gonna have to figure that out. Yeah, we're not quite there yet, but we'll get there eventually. Now we're doing that process again, but with the sensor removed, and once the car is started, we're gonna plug in the sensor again. We're trying to figure out where the cable is located in the ECU and if it gives proper signal throughout the whole wire. On this diagram you can see everything about the ECU and how it is connected, and if you look at these numbers and you compare it to the reality of the ECU that is in right now, it ain't right. So something ain't right in the cables or something else. Yeah, but that's what we know at this moment. And this situation right here is also not ideal. We're now probing for the input signal on the ECU and checking if it's okay and if it looks good. Which means we have to start the car again. Ja, hij ziet me verder niet zitten. Nee? Maar nee! Oh. Oh, that's bad. There's no signal. So now we are looking if there is an interruption or a short circuit in the wires. Which was the case, because if we measure out the sensor with the multimeter, all 3 pins are beeping, which is bad. Dat is al niet goed. This is the situation at the moment. We're deep-pinning stuff and so on. Wish I could tell you in detail what's actually happening, but yeah, I'm not getting my head around it either. So, there you go. Een moment en historie. Dat is een beetje raar zo, hè? make everything a little bit more clear to y'all, let me explain to you why the car goes to above 3000 RPM. So because the signal wire is short-circuited with the shielding wire, the engine control box did not see that signal and ignored that, because there are two camshaft sensors on the engine, and it can see the cylinder sequence based on that. So by depinning the defective cable and replacing that with a flying cable, the engine control box got on that way a signal, but the timing is not right, it seems, which is causing it to ignite too early. So then we had the car running without the sensor, and when the car is running, you put the sensor back and you clear all fault codes, and then it goes above 3000 RPM. Is it perfectly? No, because it's still going in like revs, but yeah. So now we think the main cause of this problem is the timing, might be something with the ECU, but the good thing is we already got it above 3000 RPM, so we are a step closer to the end. So I hope this will be a short series and we get like the issue quick, but we'll see. We have no sound because I'm experimenting with like Bluetooth wireless microphones and it didn't record any of it. So basically what I'm saying here is that we are back with the S2K and that we're gonna check the wiring loom to see where the breakage is. So from the ECU to the firewall all the way to the front. Plus we had to remove the throttle body to gain more access to the wiring loom, which I thought was just removing a few bolts and a few screws, but of course, it always has to be a little bit more difficult than that. So we had to remove the fuel rail as well. And then also this little thing, hold your horses, because the name of this is fuel rail pressure surge composition element. Excuse me. And then it just comes right out like this, which was the easy part. And then we just went on with removing bolts and screws, but these were tight with a big T. This is also the part where you lose the most time. Working on a car is actually losing a lot of time. Yeah. Don't know what I'm doing here, but we are still going though. The dyno had to come off as well, together with the belt tensioner. Make sure if you do this to disconnect your battery, or Katy Perry will come sing in your living room. Anyway, doing a little bit more of removing screws, bolts, and hoses, and ta-da!
And rolling.
Another hose I forgot to remove. Anyway, the valves are clean, but that is the advantage of an indirectly injected petrol.
Wat weet waarom dat nolie daar zit? Omdat even de koelvloeistoffen.
So like I was saying, this little space here, there's oil in there, but that's for coolant fluid. So why is there oil there? What? Something we noticed as well is that the knock sensor is not in the best shape anymore, but I'll show you that in a minute. But first, it's opening the protection of the wiring loom. So that's exactly what we did. We saw if we got signal with the multimeter, which was actually, and that was not a good thing. So the outer wire is a protective sheath and the inner wire is a signal wire, and those two pass to each other, and that is not something that should happen. Because we cannot physically see the breakage in the wire, we're gonna have to install a completely new one. And not to be forgotten, the knock sensor I was talking about, this is what we are working with. I think we can all see this is bad, but I already ordered a new one, so we're good. Anyhow, let's get back where I left off. We are gonna replace the shielding crankshaft wire with some spare parts from the BMW E46. This is also a shielded wire, and we're gonna replace this one with that one, and that should be completely fine. Previously, I showed you why the three cables were beeping, which was not ideal, and this is what we actually should have. Yeah, okay. So because this wire is not long enough, we had to solder another one onto it. So yeah, this is what we have at the moment. Once again, one of those plastic tubes go over the two wires just to protect everything. So we are now winding the cables to counteract electrostatic interference.
Dus Anke doet dat stief goed.
Anke doet dat stief goed, deed dat goed? So the signal wire of the crankshaft sensor is off. Because we were not physically able to see the breakage in the wire, we're gonna cut it open to see if we can see something when the wire is open. So pray for me, I'm not cutting my fingers off. Then we need those prayers. The shielding from the wire is off. Well, good thing there's nothing to see here. So yeah, anyhow, I do have a new jumping rope though. Never mind. The new wire is installed in the wiring loom with donor wires from the E46 M3, like I was saying, and in my opinion this looks very, very good. Looks better than before. We're gonna take a dive inside the car, like literally, to get the wiring harness on its place. Cirque du Soleil ain't nothing against me. Alive and well.
Nice job.
Nice job. So the crankshaft sensor fault code should be gone now because we put a new wire in, which is good because that was what we are aiming for. And by just figuring some things out, the timing should be off as well because we have pre-ignition in the DCT. Klopt, deze tegen de just. And so we noticed the timing was off. Why did we notice the timing was off?
Because when we cranked, it starts hard because it's starting to backfire before it top that center.
Yeah.
That's not good.
That's not good. I don't know what that means, but yeah, there you go. Which means we are a step closer to the finishing of the car, but which also means there is still a lot to do, so yeah. Anyhow, that'll be it for today, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. I think we already did like quite a lot. We are already one step closer to the end because the 4 years this car was like standing in my garage. What a waste of time was that. I know, don't judge me. Anyhow, I hope I'll see you in my next video, which will also be about my S2K newsflash. So I hope I'll see you guys there, and I hope you enjoyed the video quite a lot, or maybe not quite a lot and just a little, but yeah, whatever. Thank you, bye. Niet lachen met mij, ja? The crankshaft sensor fault code. Wat? Zo dat crankshaft, ja, weet je, dat is echt allemaal een beetje moeilijk vandaag. Dat is oké. Because you have pre-ignition for the... Wacht, laat me even zo gaan met snappen lassen. Net als we van aan de vertellen. D? C? T? Nee, TDC.
Ja.
Because we have... Hoe moeilijk kan dat hier eigenlijk zijn? YouTube filmpjes morgen, gisteren hè? Wat zou hij niet vandaag? Maar gisteren en eergisteren ging het eigenlijk, weet ik niet. Kill.
Dead.
Top dead center. Wat?
We moeten alles het beeld.
Maak je de plafond aan het filmen? Nee! Waar komt die C vandaan?
Nou, ik weet niet hè. Hoe vraag je ook af?
Doe dat dan nog een keer?
Ah, wel.
Ja.
I'm camera shy.
Ja, maar wat staat er niet op? Dat kun je zo niet uit denken. Maar ik dat ik anders wel kan denken, maar goed.
I am retarded.